On a cold November night in 1971, while Americans were preparing to celebrate Thanksgiving, a mysterious man was about to carry out one of the boldest and strangest acts in aviation history. He boarded a plane as an ordinary passenger, and he left it in a way no one has ever been able to explain. His name has become legend, D.B. Cooper. It was November 24, 1971, at Portland International Airport in Oregon. A man in his mid-40s, well-dressed in a suit and tie, carrying only a small black briefcase, walked calmly to the ticket counter of Northwest Orient Airlines. He purchased a one-way ticket to Seattle, paid in cash, and wrote down a name that would never be forgotten: Dan Cooper. Once on board Flight 305, he took seat 18C near the back. He ordered a bourbon with soda, sat quietly, and looked just like any other businessman traveling for work. But only minutes after takeoff, he handed a folded note to one of the flight attendants. She slipped it into her pocket without reading it, assuming it was just a phone number from a lonely traveler. But then the man leaned closer and whispered, "Miss, you'd better read that note right now. I have a bomb in my briefcase." When she opened it, her hands began to shake. The note demanded $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck ready to refuel the plane once they landed in Seattle. The man slowly opened his briefcase just enough for her to see wires, red sticks, and a battery. It looked like dynamite. The threat was real. The pilots quickly informed air traffic control, and the FBI was immediately contacted. Surprisingly, the hijacker remained calm, polite, and even friendly. He never raised his voice, never harmed anyone, and simply repeated his demands. By the time the plane landed in Seattle, the FBI had gathered the money, every bill carefully marked with serial numbers, and delivered 4 parachutes. Cooper accepted them and released all the passengers, leaving only the flight crew on board. Then came his next orders. The plane was to take off again, heading toward Mexico, but under strange conditions. The aircraft had to fly low, no higher than 10,000 feet at a slow speed of about 200 miles per hour, with the rear stairway lowered and ready. Outside, the storm was raging. Heavy rain lashed the fuselage and strong winds rocked the wings. Somewhere over the forests of Washington state, around 8 p.m., the warning light in the cockpit suddenly indicated that the rear stairs had been opened. The crew felt the plane lurch slightly, as though a weight had shifted. And just like that, the man known as Dan Cooper stepped into the blackness of the night, carrying a bag stuffed with cash, and disappeared forever. What followed was the largest manhunt in FBI history, known as NORJAC, the Northwest Hijacking Investigation. More than 800 agents were involved. Over 1,000 suspects were questioned. Yet there was no body, no parachute, no trace of Cooper. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. For nearly a decade, there was nothing. Then, in 1980, a young boy playing along the Columbia River found a bundle of cash buried in the sand. When the FBI examined it, they confirmed it was part of Cooper's ransom money with the exact serial numbers. But only about $5,800 was recovered. The rest of the $200,000 had never been seen again. Over the years, countless theories emerged. Some believed Cooper never survived the jump, that the storm, the darkness, and the rough terrain had killed him instantly. Others were convinced he was an experienced paratrooper, or perhaps a former military man who planned everything to the smallest detail. And there are those who insist he did survive, that he assumed a new identity and lived the rest of his life in complete secrecy, laughing at the world's most famous unsolved mystery. But the strangest part of all is that none of the marked bills, apart from that small bundle found in the sand, ever showed up in circulation. Not in banks, not in stores, not anywhere. In 2016, after 45 years of chasing shadows, the FBI officially closed the case. They declared they had exhausted every lead, every piece of evidence, and still could not solve the mystery. But closing the file did not close the legend. To this day, Americans still ask, was D.B. Cooper a reckless daredevil who died in the forest that night? Or was he a criminal mastermind who pulled off the impossible and escaped into a new life? The truth is that no one knows. D.B. Cooper boarded that plane as a well-dressed man with a quiet smile, and he vanished into the night sky with a fortune strapped to his body. He left behind no body, No clues and no answers. Just a question that has haunted America for more than half a century. Where did D.B. Cooper go, and will his secret ever be revealed?